This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. Why is there such awkwardness surrounding Lance Stroll, and is it justified? For such a young driver, Lance Stroll gets a lot of attention. Maybe because it's the fact that his dad's a billionaire, or maybe it's also the fact that his dad owns the team that he drives for. This really stands out for a lot of people, especially in 2020, where Racing Point have opted to go for Sebastian Vettel for the 2021 season. This has meant that Sergio Perez has missed out on the 2021 seat at the new Aston Martin Racing Point team. I, for one, was left feeling a little bit awkward about the decisions made. Is it justified to question Lance Stroll's position within the team and the future lineup? Well, it's time to find out. Welcome to the Racing House. My name is Saki, and keep watching to see me and Aldous answer those awkward questions and see if it's justified given Lance Stroll's performances. Before we get going again, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I really do appreciate it. We're trying to go for 10,000 subscribers before the end of this year, so thank you. Now, let's not get confused here with what I'm saying. There's absolutely no father in the world that's going to oust their own son in a team that they own, especially when Lance is so young and only 4 years into his career. However, it does feel extremely odd that they're getting rid of a driver that has effectively saved the team by taking them to court, pushing them into administration and allowing them to bring on a new owner that's got greater ambition. But putting that to the side, I think it would be a good place to start by letting Aldous discuss his thoughts on Lance Stroll in the 2020 season. Take it away, Aldous.
So, Lance Stroll in 2020. Now, I think it's fair to say that this has been Lance's best season in Formula One. Certainly looking off the back of last year in 2019, obviously he didn't do quite as well against Sergio Perez in his first year at Racing Point, which of course is been bought by his dad, and qualifying was a big Achilles heel. So, certainly going into 2020, there was a lot of pressure on Lance to deliver, and then obviously a lot of pressure when Racing Point produced a really good car for 2020 that was very clearly capable of very strong positions in terms of the points, but also podiums as well. So there was a lot of pressure going into the season, and Lance has certainly delivered. That kind of tag of pay drive and the fact that he's only in Formula One because of the money, I think it's kind of behind him at the moment. He's proven his worth over and over again, especially in 2020, and that whole qualifying, him struggling in qualifying. Of course, probably the biggest high in terms of this season was arguably his pole position in Turkey, and he's always been a very handy driver in the wet, and I think in 2020 he's just combined all of those things, combining everything that he needs to learn, and he's just improved so much, especially in that first part of the season. He was such a consistent points scorer, and when you look at 2020 for Lance, it has been a season full of many highs, but also a few lows as well. Now, we can't go away from the fact that he's had 5 non-finishes, he's had a few little reliability issues there and there, and he has been unlucky at times as well, like being crashed by Charles Leclerc in Russia. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster season for Lance Stroll. But when you actually look at the performances and take away some of those reliabilities and some of those DNFs, getting that podium in Monza and just being so consistent in the first part of that season, and of course getting a podium in Bahrain and Sakir, I should say, as well. It's been a great season for Lance, and obviously going into next year with the team becoming Aston Martin and a brand new motivation and a bit more even pressure on Lance Stroll by way of a 4-time world champion coming into the team in Sebastian Vettel. A Sebastian Vettel who's gonna, want to get his game up, obviously beat Lance Stroll at his own team. So yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting dynamic between Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, but no doubt from Lance's perspective, obviously with the team turning into Aston Martin and getting a 4-time world champion across the garage from him, it's a massive motivation. He's going to have to step his game up. He's going to have to show a new level to his driving, and I'm sure he's up to the task. He's a quality driver. He just needs to avoid some of those, kind of little incidents there and there, and not even being in the position to get into trouble in the first place. But overall, we saw at the beginning of this season the kind of consistency he was able to kind of achieve, and also some of the things he's able to do in terms of qualifying on pole and being able to get those podiums as well. Lance has turned into a quality driver. The whole, pay driver thing, I think, is behind him because he is a great driver now, and it all depends on how it goes in the future as well. Up against Sebastian Vettel, could he even beat Seb in 2021? That's not out of the question, I think, if he keeps on improving, and if Seb doesn't quite bounce back from the kind of 2, mediocre years that he's had. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things going on at Aston Martin in 2021, and Lance Stroll certainly has had a great season and is going to go into 2021 with a lot of confidence and definitely a point to prove.
Now, Stroll has shown improvement in 2020, which Aldous just mentioned. The fact that we can't ignore is that their choice of driver based on current form isn't based on meritocracy, a word that Toto Wolff likes to use often. And the reason why I say this is because Sergio Perez is a massive elephant in the room. His performances in 2020, in all honesty, have been pretty special. For Sergio Perez to finish 4th in the championship after missing 2 races as well serves to this argument that F1 isn't a meritocracy. His future should have been sewn up and guaranteed given such results. This is where my thought process lays. How can the team make such a decision given the performance of one of their drivers being so much better than the other driver? And it really did make me worry about the decision making process in that team. And then I remember who we're dealing with. We're dealing with Lance Stroll, an elite businessman. The Aston Martin name is huge, and with that big name comes a big set of ambitions. But how do you match such ambitions with action in F1? And can Racing Point Aston Martin be serious about challenging for wins and championships with a lineup of Stroll and Vettel? Firstly, you have to bring in a driver that knows how to get the best out of the car and the team that will allow them to go on and win races. They've done this in the form of Sebastian Vettel this year, but you can't say this with a large degree of confidence that Stroll is the man to do that, or Perez. I know Perez has won a race this year, but long term, is that going to be consistent enough to challenge in the way that Lance Stroll really wants to? Improvement also extends to team personnel. In 2020, we've really seen Racing Point with their new equipment really struggle in terms of strategy calls, and they've already started recruiting heavily to build out that team for success. And if we're being honest, Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez have never actually been in that winning environment. I know Perez won recently, but they've got no experience of doing it consistently. So this is why Racing Point have gone down this route. Like I said, no father's going to get rid of their own son in their own team. It's just not going to happen. Just quickly, one argument that I get quite a lot, that Lance Stroll is a paid driver, doesn't deserve his spot, and he's not talented enough. It creates an awkward feeling around the driver. I want to see if this feeling is justified, so let's throw it back. I think we really need to look at the rise of this young driver, because I often forget how young Lance Stroll really is. He's only 22 and he's the second youngest driver on the grid, only beaten by Lando Norris, and Lance Stroll's had a reasonably good start to his career. One interesting fact that I didn't learn until this year was that Lance was actually part of the Ferrari driver academy from 2010 to 2015. There may be some financial assistance involved there, which may have allowed him to get that leg up, but Ferrari don't just go getting any old driver, adding them to the academy if they're not talented. He's also shown his ability in the junior categories, securing the championship in the Italian F4 in 2014. He also secured 5th place in the Formula 3 European Championship in 2015, and then in 2016 he went a million times better and won the championship. He's just very unique in the sense that his dad has bought an F1 team, providing him with the security of a seat in F1 that no other driver has. I think it's so important to remember that Lance Stroll isn't the only driver to have a parent who back their racing career and literally pour millions and millions into getting them to F1 and ensuring that they're successful. So let's acknowledge a driver's story and come up and start judging them on what they do on the track where we can. I know though, sometimes drivers make it really hard for us to do this. And to answer the question, is it fair that we are a little bit awkward? Looking at all the information, I think it's completely justified and acceptable to feel a little bit awkward about the driver situation at the moment. It's just not exclusive to Racing Point or Lance Stroll. You're always going to feel a little bit awkward about it because we're constantly being told the best of the best drivers make it to F1. It's a meritocracy. It's just not the case. Lance has shown his ability and talent throughout his career, and I truly believe that he should be given the time to develop like every other young driver on the grid. Sergio Perez has obviously outperformed Lance, especially this year, but the way I see it, that's going to happen when you've got a very talented, experienced driver versus a young, inexperienced driver. I know before you come at me, there are some exceptions to this rule, but it is what it is. Now, Racing Point are going for an F1 team that can take them to the next level. Lance is the younger driver, the one that can now go and learn from Sebastian Vettel, the 4-time world champion, who's been there and done that. There's so much that Lance can learn. We've seen it throughout the season that he just makes those little mistakes, or he's not really in the know in terms of what really needs to be done to get the most out of a car. And next year, I'm excited to see the Aston Martin name back on the grid, and I hope you're excited to see it too, because like I say, it's such a huge name to have in the sport. So that just about finishes off my video about the awkward questions surrounding Lance Stroll and if it's justified. I really do hope you've enjoyed. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. And if, like me, you're feeling a little bit less awkward about it all and the Racing Point lineup for 2021, I really do hope you've enjoyed. Until next time. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to ensure that you get all my latest videos.